operating in the countries. The disciplines are for the government. The right for cooperation, one thing, and there were restrictions actually on the other hand. This is the agenda for the developing countries for many years. It's all focused. The best way to understand it is focused towards see the control of WTO on their investments. This is highly aligned with the agenda of the civil society to reduce, to be reached zero, and to be actually be able to put an end to the situation. They wanted to control the base of intellectual property basis that they offer in terms of WTO. It's important to locate us within the pandemic of what we are going through in this moment. Lots of people are dying every single day, and millions of people getting infected because actually the patents lapse. If we didn't have the patents on vaccines and treatments for COVID-19, millions of patients could still stay alive today. Okay? And this is to be by the WTO that handle WTO. There's a proposal of suspension of those rules. Of course, Italy for months actually started this last year. It's unbelievable. There was a big negotiating now, and that the WTO, we see the need of saving human lives should be be actually in the first place, should come before patents, and are the most privileged economic people in the planet. So the governments, they are blocking this possibility. They should agree immediately, not in November or no, or next month or last month. No, it just now should now actually make a suspension actually to medication and vaccines related to COVID. This is an important topic in the world today. Actually, the most important topic also in the WTO. But yes, it's in the development agenda also to serve the demands of also suspend the liberalization of services should be guaranteed according to WTO, given the rights to operate to international companies. These services should be actually will be outside the dynamics of the market. And private services need more regulation than they have today. Different industrial policy. We need industrial policy now more than ever. And also there are too many limitations also by the WTO. We do need, obviously, we need technology to resolve actually the climate change. But the rule for intellectual property limit the countries of the developed country actually to do something. We also need food safety and security. The norms of the WTO limit the capacity of the developed country to have food safety and security measures in place, the livelihood of crops and also people for agricultural activities, and much more to be said. But there's a small design of the whole situation, and everything tries to that also the norms of the WTO and how they affect our daily lives. After so many years of fight, we have to say no. We have not been successful so the WTO would be more favorable to development and less favorable to big corporations. Well, they have to admit not exactly that would be possible or reforming so much WTO to govern the global economies because we have to put human rights, public service, food sovereignty in the first place. Also, they review the agenda that define the organization of the economy. But also, we see that we want to stop actually this situation. Corporations also want to expand WTO. So more aspects of our daily life should be also covered by extended rules to the WTO. Then what is the current agenda in terms of governments or the neoliberal governments of the North vis-a-vis the WTO? The most important thing of all is that they're promoting big technologies. And also, remember what I explained, the ones that we have, because the big companies are advocated, pressured to, to have agreement limiting the reach or actually of rights in the sectors for developing countries. And this started from foundation WTO, but now the world has changed. And now we have big technologies companies that we see in the world now. Then they suppress this agreement when because we have Uber, Facebook, and then you see how electronic or e-commerce exists because actually it's a new, completely new design for for the future, for the economy of the future is digital economy. But really, also we see Amazon, Google to have rules that govern the general economy under the control of this corporation. Especially, it's important to understand to have the control on the most valuable resource in the world, which are people. The what dominates data will dominate the world. Is to guarantee ensure that developing country would never be able to use any policy data for the public good, which is one of the most important innovations in the world. And also, you have the digital challenge that would benefit workers, the different local communities from the data that are being produced. They want to ensure that it will never happen. So they were trying to have a new mandate to negotiate in a digital agreement to WTO that they were blocked for one more and one third of the members actually, and this was in 2017 because they were blocked by the members. So now what happens that the group of countries are negotiating, and this is what is called. This means that some countries also with the multilaterals that mean other countries actually are different from the other countries. So plurilateral countries us back to this agreement for the first time ever. Also on digital commerce, this all is very, very dangerous. And we have to stop this whole process. We have many research and resources on this in Spanish and in a web page, and you can find all this information. Another important cooperative agenda would be that they want this on the beginning, and we saw this important push actually to for the liberalization of services, put services subject to the regulation, better control for corporate corporations at domestic level for providing services. And we see this, they are finalizing now this moment an agreement that would grant to foreign company the right to intervene in the different national policies designed instead of balance the interests of the national, the consumers, the companies, the users, actually the whole community, the regulator, the legislature. We have to balance out the interests of all the citizens against the transnational foreign corporations that are not the citizens of the country. This is was being discovered, and possibly they will finalize at the end of the year for the November ministerial meeting. And the third thing, in terms of investment, granting foreign investment the right to intervene in the preparation of this type of policy so that their interests could be weighted against other investment services subject to actually to the WTO negotiations. And they're actually because they're fighting also against bilateral agreement, and also all of this can be changed, but we have to avoid this into entering into effect. And we're talking about investment agreement. Actually, they want to finalize it or put in effect in November. Brazil does participate in the plurilateral digital trade, national regulation on services, and facilitation of foreign investments. And also we can talk about the Latin American countries, Argentina, also Colombia, Costa Rica, Chile, Uruguay, Peru, and others. Those are countries in Latin America are involved in this process. Well, there's a danger. I'm reaching to the conclusion of my presentation. The big danger now actually is with these defenders of cooperation, because the next one is Geneva by the end of the November to legitimize the plurilaterals, actually are illegal. The multilateral, and this gives the developed countries a better chance to having to break those powerful initiatives. This is something small, but there's a danger since that big, big cooperative agreement, we have to start negotiations with any topic related to commerce or trade. They will start actually negotiations, and that could establish the new standard in developing countries. And the civil society have resisted to the WTO actually for 25 years, also to stop the expansion, and actually would be important for the developing countries. But the criticism made of WTO in 25 years, and perhaps we could have a practical framework in agreement with the developing countries. So the big struggle now is the extension or exception of TRIPS agreement, and in human life, the most important in terms of different monopolies. What is it that the WTO is going to be doing? The illegal plurilateral negotiations or investment will be they legitimized by the WTO, and e-commerce and services. Each one of those actually is a threat for uh, for national leaders. But this would open the door actually to cooperative and just even more in the future, albeit they will be able to realize of the WTO crisis, and then and they have poor policies of WTO. So the countries have to optimize their trade to develop their very own economies according to the need of cooperation. And there, but this lack of all of this led to precariousness and less development. And finally, what it matters now and what's urgent now actually is to turn around the WTO, and we demand the government to participate in a serious transformation of the current rules. This is what they have to understand. First, we'll resolve this in terms of the WTO in general. They go through actually this format of consolidate the control on these priorities and open the door. I would finalize my presentation in a nutshell. I would like to listen to the next panelist. Thank you. You provide us with a very comprehensive outlook in just a few minutes, which is very important.